Matthias. So, welcome to the Dadpreneur Revolution podcast and live stream on Facebook. So, this is the place where dads grow to become the leaders that they were born to be. And today we have this super amazing, exciting guest that I've been knowing for a couple of months, and I'm super inspired and very touched by this man. So, this man is the husband of Autumn and the dad of Eve. He's a best-selling author and a kung fu master and Pan-American champion, and a former membership of the military and corporate wage slave, and also a former factory worker. So for us to really have the blessing to speak to Jeremy Roadruck, thank you so much for joining us on the Dadpreneur Revolution. Hey, how are you doing?
I am good, and it's an absolute pleasure to join. And I've been watching you as well and seeing the things you're doing and the work you're doing with dads. I think there definitely needs to be more of this, right? More of the dadpreneur. Fathers, you can be amazing at work and be amazing in your relationship and be amazing at home. And we need to have that conversation more. So I'm excited to be here today. And I pushed this out, I think, like 15 different places in the last 2 days saying, hey guys, we're doing a thing. You should come join us. So I'm excited.
Awesome. And to really give a very short story, like the very short sentence that I really think is super powerful is that you're dedicated to help entrepreneurial dads connect at home, influence their kids, and rock their wives. I love that sentence. It's super powerful, and I feel very inspiring. It's so inclusive and so direct.
Absolutely. Because what's the point of you're making bank and then your wife leaves you, or she's involved in alcohol, or she's so involved in the kids' lives that you guys just don't have anything. There's no spark anymore. And that's just hard to watch. And it doesn't have to be that way.
Definitely. Yeah, the life, I speak a lot about life without compromise. I'm really happy to see your interpretation of that. So let's dig into some fast fives. It's basically 5 check-in questions, and we see how deep we dive, but it's basically a quick check-in, and then we dive into depth of you. Could you share with me a surprise that you have given, or maybe that you've even made for your wife that she absolutely loved or that she hated, really hated?
So very early in our relationship, my wife and I were doing some stuff, and she was like, well, I don't know, just surprise me. You get that, hey, I'm at the store. Do you want anything? Oh, just surprise me. You know what I like. And so, as a dad, it's just kind of like, as a husband, as a partner, it's just like, oh crap, what does she like? And I have to run through that list of stuff. And so I was at here locally, it's called Dorothy Lane Market, and they have these really upscale, fancy chocolates and desserts and stuff. And so I brought home a dessert for me, and I pulled that out of the box, and she was just like, oh, okay, great. Like she thought we were going to share. And then I pulled out one of her favorites, and she was like, oh, honey. And she was like super happy. And I was like, score, got the point. I win. So I make that a game every day. What can I do to make her like just pause for a second and go, oh, I really love you. So how can I score that point? And if I haven't done that yet, I got to figure that out.
Can you share, how did you get into that practice of scoring that point? Was it natural from the beginning of your marriage, or how did you come to that realization?
So I have been a student of human dynamics my entire life. I went through some unpleasantness when I was a child. I had some abuse in my background, and that shifted me out of a child brain into a teenage brain around 5 or 6 years old. And everything for me was survival. Everything was like, I don't know how to fit in. I don't know what's going to go on. Unconsciously, because I buried the memories for a long time, but unconsciously, I was always in survival mode, and I was always kind of angry. So imagine playing tic-tac-toe with a 7-year-old who has this unconscious belief that if he loses, he's going to die. That brings a lot of intensity. And so I very quickly realized my energy level and other people were mismatched, and I was just like blowing it out of the water and scaring people. So I had to back off. And that made me start to study human beings and what do they say and what do they do. And on the relationship side, I listened to the conversations that women had and how unfulfilled they were, or they didn't feel acknowledged, they didn't feel seen. And the guys, I listened to them, and they're like trying to figure out how to make someone happy. A lot of guys fall into the pattern of acts of service. I got to do this thing. And look, I'm doing all these things to take care of all these things. I love you. But if it's not hitting the way she receives, it doesn't matter. And in my wife's situation, I know she had had a previous relationship that wasn't really healthy and wasn't really good for either of them. And she didn't get acknowledgement. She wasn't made to feel special or important. And so that became a thing for me. Part of my love languages is acts of service. I love to do stuff. And for her, words of affirmation are super important, telling her important things. And then she had never really had somebody who just randomly did stuff just to light her up because they like to light her up. I wasn't trying to get anything out of it. It wasn't like, let me do this because I'm going to get something later. It's just, if she's filled to capacity, then it's easier for her to overflow on me, on other people. The world's a better place. And so that was just the way our relationship began. One of the things from the very, very beginning, what can I do to light her up? And when I was a little bit younger and more immature, my belief in myself was that I wasn't worth anything. So I demonstrated my value by doing so much and giving and giving and giving, and it became smothering. And a lot of my relationships didn't work because it was completely out of balance. And I take ownership of that. So with Autumn, it's able to have somebody who wants to receive, who can receive, but I don't have a need to hide myself. So I can receive from her too. And give you a quick example of that. Very early in our relationship, I was at the Kung Fu school and I was teaching, and I was just running a lot of different processes, a lot of different threads. I had students going on, I had sales, I had marketing, I had promotion thing, I had all this stuff. And she messaged me, she texted me, and I'm like, hey babe, I can't talk to you right now. I'm just overwhelmed. I got too much going on. I really don't want to be here, but I don't have a choice. And I just kind of let that go because I was stressed and I was focused. And then about 15, 20 minutes later, she shows up and she's got Starbucks and she's got a cappuccino, frozen cappuccino in one hand. So she's got the caramel frap, and then she's got hot chocolate. So cold and warm. And it was just like, wait, what? You heard that I was overwhelmed and then you did something about it? That's really cool. And it, like, being able to receive that from her, it was like, this is somebody really different and special. And that was something that really lit me up, was to have her do kind of an act of service for me. And it totally wasn't expected. I wasn't asking for it. I wasn't looking for it. I wasn't even on that wavelength because I was over here doing all this other stuff. And she just shows up and I was like, hey babe, got something for you. And then she kind of stood there for a little bit, gave me a kiss, and then she bounced out because she saw that I was busy and I was working. And that respect for the work that I was doing, but also the desire to connect and to realize that I was in a difficult place. That was like a watershed moment for me. It was like, wow, I'm definitely with the right person. And that was 5.5 years ago, and we're still together. So
beautiful. I can relate to a lot of that, like also being a recovering pleaser, to be able to receive in this kind of way, for me has been also very uncomfortable. And it really takes, like, to be able to, I can't just sit back here and be given beauty or whatever it is. Like, I deserve it. I don't need to kind of show up and be showing myself worthy. It's like, okay to just be. So beautiful. Thank you. And could you share with me like an action or a non-action that makes you feel most alive? What would that be?
Water slides. Right? You get on the water slide, you're just like, whee, boosh. That was awesome. Let's do it again. And off we go. Yeah. So yeah, those are amazing. I love to do that with my kids. Watch their excitement as they go flying down, the fear, and then the excitement, and then the let's do it again. Because, like, I'm not gonna steer you crazy, kid. We're gonna do good stuff. Exhilarating, maybe a little uncomfortable at first, but I got you. So yeah, that's one of the best things ever.
Awesome. Can you share what is your morning or day routine that makes you be on point and perform at your absolute best?
Yeah, I have some days where I'm more on point than others. Depends on. Evie is now 5, and I think we're at the point she's sleeping through the night because for a long time she would wake up 2 and 3 times a night. So it's only in the last 3 or 4 months I've started getting like a full night's sleep again. So I wake up a little bit different. But when I'm running on all cylinders, first thing is I open my eyes. That's generally the first thing I do when I wake up. And then I sit up, because if I lay down, hit the snooze, it's too easy to go back in that pattern of just back to sleep and comfortable. And so no, alarm goes off. I got to sit up and I open my eyes, hands next to my hips, slide backwards, and just sit up in bed and just kind of breathe for a few minutes and do a systems check. Hands, feet, arms, legs, everybody's there, everybody's functioning. And then take 5 minutes to just be grateful. I have my wife next to me, our house, our super comfy bed, the cats, the kids, just all the things that are at one point in my life were dreams are now my reality. So be grateful for that. Even if I have other things pressing on me and stressing on me, if I start with reminding myself of the good stuff, then it gets easier to handle that other stuff because I've dealt with things like this. I've come through it. I'll get through this next season. It's not that big a deal. I just need to breathe and center myself. And so then next step is water, stretch, just lightly moving my body. I might go for a run. I might go do some burpees. But just get active and kind of flush my system out. And then quick rinse, ice cold shower, or as cold as I can stand. And then I'm ready to connect with everybody and let's get this day going. And then most of the time it's, Autumn wakes up, go get Evie. We're going to get her ready for school. We take her to school together. And then after Evie's at school, now we have our day and Evie's busy till 3. So that's kind of like how my mind kind of structures. And then Saturday, if I'm teaching, is a little different. And if I'm not teaching, we go get donuts. And then Sunday is kind of family day, clean the house, plan the next week, that kind of stuff. And so that's kind of our routine by and large.
Can you share what is your favorite way to connect to your daughter, and how does it make you feel to do that?
Favorite way to connect with my daughter. When I come home, well, she does this too at school. When we pick her up, she runs and gives me a hug and just she's so happy to see me. And that's a nice feeling when someone's happy to see you, and she doesn't really hide it. And then when I come home from work after the Kung Fu school, she runs up and gives me a hug, and it's like, hey. So there's that initial greeting, and then doing stuff with her, go to the trampoline park, go for a bike ride. There's something I put on my Instagram. We were in the backyard playing dollies for a little while, and just quality time and kind of watching her experience life and how she starts to put things together and connect things and spontaneously realizes, the neurosynapses have connected together. And it's like, oh, that's new. She wasn't doing that a week ago. She wasn't doing that a month ago. So watching that growth and just how she's leveling up in life has been probably the coolest thing ever. And her energy is very similar to mine when I was her age. And she is now at that age when I shifted gears. So being aware of where she's at, who she's around, what is she doing? There's a couple of kids in the neighborhood. It was 9 o'clock at night. And one of them is 5, and he walked another one who's 5 over to her house. Then he came back home, and then he got on his bike to go ride around at 9 o'clock at night in the dark, unsupervised, at 5 years old. And I have some very serious concerns because the parents have no idea where he is, what he's doing. He could just disappear forever very easily. And that just, I'm not saying I'm on my daughter 24/7 because I'm not. I give her some freedom, but I'm around and I'm listening and I'm aware. And so is my wife. And so, that time together, that's like the coolest thing. And that's like my favorite. Whatever the activity is kind of less important. It's more who I'm with. I've always been that way. It's less of what I do and who I'm with that's more important to me.
And finally, of this quick 5. So you've been doing Kung Fu for a long time, being a Kung Fu master. When did you start practicing Kung Fu?
1995.
95. So I'm really curious, there are so many different moves and styles in Kung Fu. I've been practicing some Shaolin Kung Fu many years ago. But what is your favorite move? And can you show it for us? Watching the live stream, can you show it? And if you're listening to the podcast, you can tune in or just imagine Jeremy doing this move.
Yeah, it's super easy. You take your right hand, you make a fist, take your left hand, you make a palm, you put them on top of each other, you put it in front of your heart, and then you bow. That's my favorite because it covers so many different concepts. And it's my right hand is my mind, the open hand. The left hand is my fist. That represents the body. The mind is in control of the body. Then you put it in front of your heart. When you bow, you push it away. And then you bow. And it's a reminder of several things. Number one is my mind controls my body and my emotions, self-control. Second thing, whatever you have is what you're going to share. So wherever somebody is, that's what they're going to be experiencing. Someone's angry on the inside, that's what they're going to express 9 times out of 10. So, and then that bow, that respect to the other person, whatever happens, when we bow in that initial movement, it's just to acknowledge the humanity inside each of us, right? Because all of us, good, bad, or sideways, we're doing the best we can with what we have available in our internal world. So people either give you a loving response or a cry for help. And do you have the skill to help them when it's a cry for help? That's a different conversation. But that idea in the bow, like that for me is the most important thing. Plus, if you're close enough, when you bow, you headbutt people in the face and then you win because heads are stronger than faces.
Awesome. Love it. not at all what I expected, but much better.
Well, thank you.
So could you share the number one truth or insight that you've had in your life that you believe that if everyone knew this, like really had internalized this insight, that the world would be a better place? And also how you came to realize this?
Yeah, appreciation. You put the quote out today, appreciation is better than expectation, right? So when we live in expectation, we create rules and we create meanings to other people's behavior. Because when we get upset, it's not what their behavior is by itself, it's what their behavior means to us. That's what we get upset about. Because if we did the thing they did, then we would be doing, because we'd be thinking and feeling this. So because they did this thing, they must be doing the same thing I'm doing. And that might not be the case at all. Their model of the world is different than yours. So you're running this pattern, you're running these reactions based on your expectation. If you can live in appreciation, then it's easier to unravel the causal effect chain. It's easier to put you back at cause because now you have a choice. Hey, thank you for showing me who you really are. Please leave my life. You can do that and be appreciative as you remove unhealthy people. That's okay. Versus, well, no, I said you're my friend and you have to do these things because you're my friend because this is what I do for my friends. But dude, that's your rules for friendship. That's your interpretation. That's not their model of the world. That's not how they live their lives. So you get mad at people for not doing things the way you do. How does that help anyone? How does that support anyone? How does that really get you where you want to be anyway? You're so focused on being right that you lose out on everything else. And it really came down, you see this in fighting, because in fighting, you have to be present in the moment. Our Kung Fu system is Shaolin and Wing Chun, because from the research we've done, Wing Chun came out of the Shaolin temples. And so one of the key signatures of Shaolin Kung Fu is the idea of being practical, being spontaneous, and being complete. Uh-oh, someone's upset.
Yeah, but taken care of.
Okay, is everything okay? You need to pause for a sec. But be practical, be spontaneous, and be complete. You need that to be a good fighter. You need that to be a good father, a good business owner, a good husband, a good friend. If you're impractical, you're making things more complicated. If you are, instead of being spontaneous, everything has to be scheduled, and let's have a meeting to discuss our schedule. And then if you're leaving things out, that just makes life harder. So when we're fighting hand to hand, we're fighting with another human being. You have to be fully present. You have to be in the moment. We call that here and now, right? And coming from my training with Grandmaster Ming in the Wing Chun Museum, this idea of here and now is the idea of space and time. Here, this is the space. This is the place. Now is the time. And then our energy has to be spontaneous. It has to flow inside that moment. When we're living in expectations, we're now inside our head. And then we're going to get trapped not by what the other person does, but what we think or what we believe the other person's going to do. And that gets us into trouble because that's when you can get tricked. You can be manipulated. You can be played. So we don't want to get in that expectation. We don't want to have that I'm going to guess. We got to have the knowledge, the skill, the training to react spontaneously as the situation is changing and it's dynamic and it's rolling around in three-dimensional space. Whether that's a relationship, whether that's a business situation, whether that's a friendship, whether that's dealing with taxes,
Hmm.
It's all time, space, and energy, or we say energy moving through time and space.
Hmm.
So if everyone could start to understand getting out of expectation and getting into appreciation, they're going to find a lot less stress in their life.
Yep.
Because they can realize and go, oh, hey, I get it, right? There's a great quote. Let me pull it up real quick. There's a great quote from Rumi. And there you go. It says, the dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes because each has been sent as a guide from beyond.
Hmm.
And so if you live in that space, whatever happens, good, bad, sideways, you appreciate it and you look into it for the lessons that can be taken out, you're powerful.
Mm-hmm.
All of that fear, anxiety, anger, jealousy, greed, happiness, praise, excitation, all of it, it's there to teach you something. It's there to offer you something. It's there to learn from. And if you have that mindset, you're invincible. Literally nothing bad can ever happen to you. It always happens for you. And this is said by somebody who was abused in 2 different countries, by an adult the first time and by kids the second time. So I'm not saying for anybody else that what they go through and the pains they experience, I'm not saying it's there to teach them. I'm saying they have an opportunity to learn if they choose, because it's their choice. In my life, digging into these problems and unlocking it allowed me a greater power than I ever would have had. So I see it as something that it helped shift me and expand me in a way I couldn't have anticipated while I lived in 20 years of anger and 10 years of figuring out what happened. So the 30 years that it took me to get where I am now, I don't wish that on anyone. So that's where if we can help, that's why I do the work that I do in the martial arts school, in the coaching. If I can help you get there faster without going through the suffering, that's a better process. So appreciation. There's my answer.
And I think also Tony Robbins, you said the first quote from Tony, and I think he also says something about life doesn't happen to you, it happens for you. And I think that's very much the same also what Rumi spoke about that. And then also on the, if it's the subheading of your book, it says, is this game worth winning? Right? And I think that's such a key point, because I experienced a lot of like business owners that I coach, and also family situations are actually built on a system that cannot be won. It's like built for struggle. It's built to be overwhelmed. It's built for loss. It's very easy to like look from the outside perspective. It's like, yeah, that's suffering. And that's pain. Of course, we can say it happens for you, but it's actually by reframing it, any business, any relationship, we can actually make it a winnable game.
Absolutely.
So if the context is wrong, we can be really good and very effective in that context, but the outcome is still never good. So instead of fighting hard, change the context. And then, as you say, with this, if everything happens for us, if also the bad things, the challenges, if that happens for us, it's an invitation to step up instead of being overwhelmed and stressed, even though these can be emotions, but it invites us to show up and act at best ability. And then we're always winning.
Absolutely. Well, it's the same in fighting, right? You don't want to get hit. Don't be open. Because if they hit you, it's not because they did something right. It's because you had to have something wrong. If your defense is perfect, they're never going to hit you, punch you, kick you, grab you, tackle you, choke you, sweep you. They'll never be able to connect because you can always kill that bridge. So if they're able to do something, it's because you had an opening. And so they showed you where the opening was. It's up to you to close that door or complain about it and say you cheated. No. Because if you're in the right time and place, literally the universe is working against your opponent, because they already have a mind separated from the universe. They're making it about you. They're making it about them. They're already separated. So all if you maintain harmony with the universe, they destroy themselves. You don't have to do anything. Easy to say, hard when someone's abusing you, stealing from you, taking you to court, withholding your children. That's a much harder process because it's closer to your heart and you have less control over that situation. But you always have control of how you show up if you choose that. And that's a skill that takes practice, right? And you said something really important, that idea of the games. For me, human beings are born winners. You won the first race. You made it to the egg, and here you are. So you won the first race. You have to learn to become a loser. And what happens when we're little kids and we do something mom or dad don't like and they give us pain? Don't do that. Don't be so loud. Don't go so fast. Don't reach so high. And they're telling us to be less and be less and be less. And initially, it might be because they're trying to protect us because they've reached too far or too high, or they got hurt, or they're concerned about our physical safety because we don't realize our boundaries. When my daughter was 2 in my old martial arts school, we had electrical conduit, a metal pipe going up the side of the thing where the wires go. And she's 2 years old, and we look over, and she's 6 feet off the floor climbing the pipe. Oh, hey, come on down, kid. Versus yelling at her, screaming at her, yanking at her, smacking her hands. We just kind of laughed about it. We're like, oh, that's not something we're going to do, babe. And we just pull her off the wall. Then we put some stuff to block her access to the pipe, and we change the environment. So that's no longer an issue. Versus let me break her spirit so she never climbs anything ever again for the rest of her life. And then get upset because when she's in high school, she's not going out for new things. Or when she's in college, she withdraws and pulls back. But my reaction when she was 2 set that precedent, set that momentum, and turned her that direction, right?
Yeah.
So this idea of games, I said earlier, you either get a loving response or a cry for help. It's either a win-win game. We both feel good, then we move forward. Or it's a negative game, lose, win, win, lose, or lose, lose. So people play 2 games. They either play a don't lose game or they play a win game. If I win, occasionally I'll lose, but then I learned something, so I really didn't lose. That's one mindset. Don't lose. I just want to break even. When they win, they feel guilty because if they win, somebody else had to lose, and I don't want anyone to lose. And we're seeing that geopolitically because we have political systems that are saying, well, if we could just set everything up perfectly, nobody would ever lose ever again. And we'll all just have equal stuff, and we'll all just have equal everything. But when you do that, it actually ends up being a very low standard. Because if you try to make everything equally fair, not everybody has equal ability in equal things. We all have different gifts and talents and skills and abilities. I have a Kung Fu brother, multimillionaire, built a trash cleaning business. Because in the 1970s, he didn't mind staying up late at night. He didn't mind cleaning up trash when people were not at work. So he would go in at night and he would clean companies and take out their trash and vacuum and dust and all that stuff. He liked it. It was a nice, peaceful time. Nobody bothered him. He enjoyed himself. And then he realized there's a lot of companies that could use this service and they want to hire him, but he's only himself. So he hired people like himself. And then he went out and got new businesses to sign up. And he went and sent people there and they got paid. And he made a little money off the work they did, but he's the one that sold it and organized it. And so 20 years later, he's a multimillionaire, but not from taking advantage of people, from just finding something he liked to do and other people like to do it too. And then he built it. Oh, and by the way, he's also an ethnic minority, which I'm told here in the United States always has everything always stacked against them is the story. But because he chose to focus on a different story, he got a different result. And I'm not saying injustice doesn't happen because I see it every day. It does. But we can't control the outside. We can influence it. We can harmonize with it. We can control our inside. When we try to control the outside, we're always setting ourselves up for pain. Because you can't make the weather stop. You can't make people be nice, but you can influence how they show up. And that's this idea of that win-win game. And realize not everybody's worth playing with. Sometimes your energy and someone else's energy, it's like 2 keys on the keyboard too close to each other. You get that dissonance where the rhythms crash. Okay, let me take a step back. And then we go 1 key over. Now we got that gap and all of a sudden the energies align and we get harmony. Listen to that. You don't have to be everybody's friend. You can be friendly because that's your standard, but you don't got to be everybody's friend. You don't have to bring everybody to your house for milk and cookies. Own that. Be honest with it because then you find the people who are your tribe, who you do harmonize with.
It's lovely to say no. It's such a good medicine. I had a salesperson call me this morning and they asked for something that sometimes it's easy to get into the dialogue and argumentation. I just said no. And they said, oh, okay, thank you. Have a good day. And it's like, there was no resistance. I didn't resist her offering. Like I could, by just this simple honoring the no, she didn't feel like I was against it. She was stupid at make her feel. It was respect, but no. It's like this no allowed me to do these other things that are more important to me. Like this no is actually a big yes to my mission.
Absolutely.
And to be in contact with the what is the gift in the rejection. I think it's been that question's been very big in for me in my life with my wife and so on. The gift of no and what is the alternative.
Yeah. I have a friend of mine. He'll say no, and he knows people he can connect. There's a friend of mine named Joe, and he's one of the best connectors I've ever seen. Because if he's not into something, he usually knows 5 to 10 people. Oh yeah, go talk to this person, this person, this. He just rattle off. Here's some great people you should go talk to. I think they'd be great help. But no, that's not really for me. And so that's a really big skill. I'm not as finessed at that. I'm still a little bit too much triangle, I think. Or that's just not my skill set. And so I have somebody like Joe that I can ask, hey, Joe, I was just curious. Did you know, here's the situation. Do you have any insight on that if you have time?
Yeah. Yes, power of networks. So something that is really, I think is really beautiful with you is that I want to learn a little bit more about your Kung Fu Master story, but also that I know through the experience you got to teach kids as a Kung Fu Master, you published actually a parenting book before you became a dad.
Yeah.
I just love that idea that it's like beautiful. Like that to have any thought of what it means to be a dad before becoming that is so brave. So both I want to know, what are like some key sharings, key learnings that you learned how to handle and kind of support kids of being empowered as a Kung Fu Master, and also some things that you learned about yourself that you did not know when you wrote the book about communicating with kids through becoming a father.
So I had to reset my phone. So let me push this out. We're live. Now I have a watch. Whoops, not Linder. My phone automatically autocorrects live to Linder, who's one of my mentors. So boom, there we go. Now we're live. All righty. So in our Kung Fu system, we talk about the idea of Kung Fu family, right? Sifu, it means teacher and it means dad. So, and I put it in the book because I wanted to explain that. So give me one moment right there. Boom. Sifu right there in page 3. This side, Sifu. And the idea of Sifu in the Chinese Kung Fu systems, everything, all the relationships, they're all Si. Sifu, Si Hing, Si Dai, Si Jai, Si Mui, Si Suk, Si Bak, Si Suk, all this stuff. Si. And people in Spanish are going, yes. What? No. The idea of that character, it's actually a picture of an army, the lines around the vertical part. It's an army around another army that's up on top of a mountain. And so it's the idea of being in a siege. And if we're going to siege an enemy, we're going to encircle them, and then we're going to starve them out. But that only works if all of us in the siege, in the perimeter, we all have to do our job. We all have our responsibility. We got to look out for each other. We got to keep each other with integrity and honesty. We got to be willing to give up our lives in the defense of each other. That's kind of this nature of the military, is that we're going to protect each other. We're going to look out for each other. And so that's the energy of Si. And so a lot of times we'll translate that as teacher, but it has a deeper meaning, which is the idea of camaraderie that shows up in military units, and the idea of sacrificing your life to protect somebody else. And then the character of Fu is the X with the eyebrows. That is a picture of 2 hands holding 2 sticks. And that represents in Chinese culture the responsibility of the father, which is to give guidelines. Those sticks are not for beating the kids. You could think of the hands holding the sticks as like the guy at the airport with the little flashlights who's telling the airplane where to go. Go over there, stop, makes the X. And so that's the dad's job, is to teach the children where the boundaries are, where the guidelines are, what's inbounds, what's out of bounds, what's allowed, what's not allowed. That is the father's responsibility. And if you look into the Bible and Judeo-Christian background, the idea of spare the rod, spoil the child is the same thing as the shepherd's hook, because that's actually what the rod is It is a shepherd's hook. And the way you guide sheep, you don't beat them. You use the hook to catch the neck of the one out front, and you guide it, you turn it, and the flock follows the leaders. And so it's that idea of if you spare the rod, if you don't guide your children, you spoil them. So you have to guide them. And that also then says, well, we have different ways to guide, different levels of consequence. Sometimes your kid is reaching towards something dangerous and you do smack their hand because they don't understand. Excuse me, young lady, young gentleman, that is hot and it will burn your skin. And then we will have to go through a healing process and we'll have to get a special salve. And you don't have time to say all that crap when they're reaching for fire. You just smack their hand and say, no, burn, bad. But if that's your answer to everything is to smack them, then you're teaching them you only have one answer for every situation is going to be a problem because you're overreacting, and not everything needs to be kinesthetic or kinetic. Not everything needs to be, I'm going to smack you to learn you. So that right there, again, a cry for help. So this informs kind of the foundation of what it means to be a Sifu. And, for that, I'll give respect to Grandmaster Ming, my Sifu. He's been a fantastic instructor, and I've known him now 24 years. He was 10 years younger than I am now when we met. And I've just watched him continue to grow and expand as a human being, and learning and trials and tribulations and challenges and expansions and all the different things that we've gone through. There has been a consistent set of guiding principles that have run his life and run his business and run his organization that not everybody likes sometimes. They don't like being held accountable. They don't like having their ego put back on them, and then they have to choose. And, how are you going to face this? He and I have crashed before. We have had yelling matches and all the rest. And a lot of that was my immaturity or my fear. But through it all, he's always, when he's done with an argument, he's done and we move on because we've learned and we'll make changes and we drive. And that integrity has been paramount to everything. So that is kind of the foundation I started on as a Kung Fu person. And then the idea of Kung Fu family. Coming from Grandmaster Moyat, who was a student of Viet Minh, and those of you who are martial art nerds are totally geeking out right now. And those of you who aren't going, what? Ching Ching Chong Chop Suey, what? But from Grandmaster Moyat, he had a very close relationship with his Sifu and spent a lot of social time with him discussing and looking at how you live life. And so he taught this thing we call Kung Fu life, which is you take the principles and the energies, the relationships, the concepts off the training floor and you put it into your life. And so you begin to start seeing these consistencies, because if it's true in a life and death fight, don't waste time, be focused, be present. If that kind of stuff is true there, isn't that kind of true in other areas of life too, where it's the consequences aren't death? Then yeah, it starts to replicate. And so then we have this idea as a Sifu, my job is to be the dad. And I walk the same path as my students. I'm just further ahead so I can tell them what to look out for because I've been there. And we have this 1,500-year history of teacher-student. It's the same stuff. So my great-grandfather ran a general store in the Wild West in the late 1800s. I have no idea what he went through on a day-to-day basis. I do know that entrepreneurial gene from my great-grandfather to my grandmother to my dad to me, that has trickled through our family for 4 generations at least. But I don't know their day-to-day trials and tribulations. But my Kung Fu family, from Sifu to student, from grandmaster to Sifu, it's exactly the same stuff for 1,500 years, because what it takes to get a human mind and a human heart and a human body to align, it's the same stuff. Even though today we have technology, there's always been fear. There's always been greed. There's always been ignorance. And those are the 3 keys. And really, fear and greed are just versions of ignorance. So we have a phrase, if you're afraid to get hit, you're going to get hit. But if you're greedy to get hit, you're going to get hit. But if you're jealous to hit, you're going to get hit. So greed, fear, and ignorance. If you don't, sorry, the last one is if you don't know how to hit, you're going to get hit. And the hit could be a physical punch. It could be a tackle. It could be a throw or a sweep. It could be mom and dad yelling at you. It could be your partner, your spouse yelling at you. It could be your customers and clients yelling at you. The hit is metaphorical. But if you get greedy, you're going to get pain. And it's not because someone did it to you. It's because when you get greedy, you're trying to hold on to too much stuff. You're going after too much stuff. You're taking too big of a bite. You can't process it. It's not anything any person did to you. It literally is the universe saying too much. You're going to spill on yourself, on other people. You're going to lose things. But if you're afraid and you hold back and you don't take opportunities when they present themselves, life is still going to hit you. You're going to lose opportunities. You're going to miss that date. You're going to miss that client opportunity. If you don't get out there, be afraid, act anyway. Don't let the fear be an excuse. Be greedy, want more, want big, and then step back and sequence it so that you help yourself win and you help other people win. Zig Ziglar said it best. You can get anything you want if you help enough other people get what they want. So when you give, it creates a vacuum inside you that the universe can flow back into you. When you give, which is what you can control, now you push that out, it creates that flow and it creates that opportunity for reciprocity to happen. If you demand, good luck. Because then you're full of yourself and your wants and your desires. And I want. And there's no room for anything to come inside you. So there's a book by Bob Berg, Giver's Gain. When you give out first, when you serve, James Malinchak talks about going from uninvited pest to welcome guest. And the secret there is service. When you serve the people in your life, not serve them from I'm worthless, but serve them from let me help you, let me enhance you, it creates room for things to flow. And then if you don't know what to do, if you're ignorant, you're just going to lose opportunities. You're going to get beat. You're going to get pain because people are taking advantage of you. So those three pieces, now take what I know, the pain that I went through as a child, the fear, the insecurities. And as I went through Kung Fu, as I learned with my Sifu and my Kung Fu brothers, I had a place where they just accepted me. And I remember like 3 or 6 months into my training, I was like, because I was there after about my first class, I threw up because I pushed too hard on the warm up. I either was 0 or 100 and nothing in between. So I did 50 jumping jacks, 50 push-ups, 50 sit-ups, 50 squats. Then I went and threw up. Because a week before that, I did 1 push-up and then laid on the ground for 5 minutes because I was so out of shape. So, I had an adrenaline dump and I pushed myself through and I got that warm-up done. And then I went and threw up. And Sifu told somebody else, he's like, oh, he's not coming back. 3 months later, I was there 7 days a week. Because I didn't understand balance and I was 20 and I could afford that because I worked on a sandpaper factory and I had a car, so I could make that happen. But they just accepted me. And at one point I asked them early on, I was like, don't you guys ever get tired of me? And Sifu was like, no, do you get tired of you? And I was like, oh, yeah, I do. I don't like me in the slightest. I hate me. And that he has this habit of asking these reflexive questions that push it back onto you and you go, oh, damn it. And you got to go into yourself and you got to think about it and figure it out. But that right there, as I went through this process of integrating myself and seeing how we're building our adults, building our kids, building our students, I am a dad, right? That's really what a Sifu is a dad. And this is my family because we see the same challenges, the jealousies, well, you showed them, but you didn't show me. One of my Kung Fu brothers, Dan, he and I were there like doing a ton. And so we got invited to some higher level training. And there were some seniors that were like, well, we've been here longer and we haven't learned that yet. And so it's not fair that they're learning that. And Sifu said, you can shut up. No, Jeremy and Dan have not become disciples. They haven't done the formal ceremony, but they're doing everything a disciple is supposed to be. So who are you to tell me who my disciples are? And it was like, and he's saying this. I mean, I'm in my 20s and he's saying this to men in their 40s. And he's like, who are you to tell me anything? They've earned their place. Over in the corner, I'm like, yes, sir. I'm just going to shut up and just be here. And I don't want to cause problems. But we were friends and he recognized that and he gave us opportunities because of our effort, because we were committed, because we put ourselves fully into the system. And so as it came time to start, I wrote the book, Your Best Child Ever Is This Game Worth Winning. I had already been teaching and training for 17 years. And I kept seeing the same patterns, the same challenges, the same difficulties. And I'm going, parents, this is not that hard. You guys are making it more complicated because you're in your head versus you're present in the moment. And so I started writing the book and going, okay, well, how do I do what I do when I work with my students? And then go back to that bow, right? The hand and the fist. That is the birth of what I call games and stories, right? Because the fist, that's the behavior. That's the games we play. And we play games to get energy. And if we can't motivate positive energy, we will manipulate negative energy. Because watch little kids. They need energy from the people around them. If they can't get positive, they'll take negative. But any energy is better than no energy, because a baby with no energy dies. It's called failure to thrive. You let a baby cry itself out too many times, the baby just gets the idea, I'm worthless, I don't matter, and will cease to exist. So we're all energy addicts. We all need energy. Number of energy units first, positive, negatives second. And so when we realize that, it's like, oh, okay, we can play a different game now. Ooh, different game. Because the game is about the behavior. If I do these things, I get those things. Oh, let me change this until I can be right or I can get the result. Which do you want? You see this with business people all the time.
Yep.
You want results? Do you want excuses? Do you want to be right? But I know I'm right, but the market isn't paying attention to you. You need to change. But I'm right. You might be right. You might just be saying it the wrong way. So that's the fist. Then the palm, this is the tiger, is the fist. The palm is the dragon. That's the wisdom. That's the story. That's the justification for the game. Because all human beings are reasonable. We always have a reason for what we do, even if it's a monstrous reason to justify monstrous behavior.
Yep.
So it's this idea, when you master stories and when you master games, life is yours. And it's just getting to that place. And that's really what my book is about, is how do we define games and how do we play those games in a way that we both get to win? And parents, I got to talk to you first. And that's why I start with the first 4 is getting in the game. Here's the fundamentals you got to be aware of. And number 1 is you're a success coach. You are teaching your children what it means to be successful. Because they look at you and they think you're amazing until you tell them you're not. Because they don't know any different. So I'm a second line success coach. I'm going to help you help your kids be successful, but I don't live with you. You're a first line. You live with them. It's a different example because you're more close to each other. You're more intimate. You see each other with eye boogers and you smell each other's farts. That creates different energy. And that's why I can say something 98% the exact same as mom and dad, but mine hits and theirs doesn't because the expectations are different. Mom and dad and kids, they all have expectations on each other. I show up without expectations. Make sense?
Yeah.
So that's kind of the fundamentals that led me to writing this book. And I put a money back guarantee on it because I'm single, I'm not dating, I don't have kids. And I'm going to write a book for parents and say, here's how you should raise your kids, or here's some strategies. You know, what gives me that right? I'm like, all right, let me put a money back guarantee on it. So you don't think I have the stuff, read it, implement it, and tell me it doesn't work. Because I've had students that they start to talk like me and they're like, I sound like Sifu, but it works. I remember one of my students, Shane, he's from Australia, and his 2 daughters, Annabelle and Isabel, were taking classes with us. And then they stopped and he continued on to his black belt. But he would start using my language patterns with them. And at one point, I think it was Isabel was like, Dad, stop kung fuing me. He's using the comments and he's using the language and just kind of getting her to say these things. And she's realizing it. And then I had another student and his daughter, she was a teenager and she was in, and, mom and dad aren't together and her mom needs to grow up a little bit. And she started dad is using the language on the daughter, and the daughter's like, Dad, come on, stop it. You sound like Sifu. But then the daughter started using the language on mom and it started working. And she's like, I sound like Sifu, but it works. I'm like, I appreciate the credit. I love you guys for it. You're awesome. And if it works, use it. Just go win. Because if you win, you feel good. They win, they feel good. Who loses? And that's really the mission I'm on, is how can I help more families play win-win games? Because if you're happy, the kids are happy. Who's losing here? The bad guys, the negative feelings? Yes. And that's the idea. You don't fight darkness by fighting darkness. You fight it by being so alive and so alight and so in fire in your own life. The darkness just fades. Right? There's a great picture I've seen where you take a match and you light it and hold it next to a wall, and then you shine a light on your hand. You'll have the shadow of your hand on the wall. You'll have the shadow of the match on the wall, but you don't have the shadow of the flame, because light doesn't cast a shadow.
Hmm.
And it's that idea. So we can light, a lighted candle loses nothing by lighting another candle. Be on fire in your life, light up somebody else's life. And then I added a third, which is be a mirror and reflect the awesome you see in other people, reflect the light. Because a lot of people are doing amazing stuff, but nobody knows. Nobody notices. So you tell them, dude, that was awesome. They're like, what? It was? Yeah, I really appreciate that. Appreciation again. You're doing such a great job as a waiter, as a waitress, as a mechanic, as a doctor, as a whatever. You're doing such a great job. You're making my life easier. You're incredible. High five. You start doing that to people, they're like, what? I'm going to get like a high five? Okay. It's so weird. I got a high five. But later when they're talking with their friends, their coworkers, like, there's this crazy guy and he came in, he said I was awesome and gave me a high five. Yeah. It's kind of nice. So let's tell those stories instead of the jerk teenager or the jerk client or the jerk adult or the jerk ethnicity of whatever. Instead of letting those stories replicate, is that story worth telling? If you would get up and walk out of a movie in the middle, why would you talk about it anymore? Change the story. When you change the story, that's the justification for the game. You change the story, you change the game, everything's different. Patterns of dysfunction in families can change in one generation because we change the story, we change the meaning. Yep. Two boys grow up, their father's in and out of jail his whole entire life. One becomes exactly like his dad and in and out of jail his whole life. The other becomes a doctor, a lawyer, gets himself out. They both say the exact same thing. With a father like that, what choice did I have? Yep. Because they changed the game. I am not this person. I can't help but be this person. Your choice. Yep. You have the power. You're the creator of your life.
So can you share on like this key message of like kids getting their own voice, like really feeling that they are true, self-empowered, connecting to themselves, and this space of emotional safety? What does these things mean to you, and how do we support kids to get there?
So there's a clip. I'm in a bunch of different dad groups, and there was a clip that somebody posted of a woman, and there's like a 3-year-old boy, and he's on a couch, and he's upset, and she's upset, and he's starting to cry, and she's like, shut up, stop it, don't do that, shut up, stop it, don't cry, shut up, stop it. And then the very next question is, why did you yell at grandma? Answer me. And the boy is like getting more and more frustrated and more upset. She goes and gets a belt because that's somehow going to calm him down, I guess. But this little kid is screaming for help, screaming for love, screaming for something, but so's the mom. Because in one side, she's saying, stop crying, shut up. But on the other side, she's saying, answer my question. His little brain can't do both because he doesn't contextualize, shut up, stop crying. Those are connected. And then answer my question about grandma. Those are two separate things. And then why is a 3-year-old being disrespectful to grandma? Pause for a second. He's 3. He doesn't understand social structures yet. That's a 4 to 7 year 4 years old to 7 years old, that's when we actually start to understand being socialized and when it's appropriate to say certain things. He's 3. He's not ready for that yet. Like his brain literally is not processing that yet. And beating him only makes him scared of you. It only hurts your relationship because he doesn't understand why he's getting hit. He's just understanding crying equals pain. I'm not going to cry anymore. But now when he's 15 and can't cry, when he's 25 and can't cry, that's dysfunctional in a human being. Says the guy who didn't cry from 10 to 22. Like there were times in high school, I remember journaling, like I wanted to cry and I could feel the heat behind my eyes, but something inside me would not let me. I will not be that weak. I will not be that pathetic. I had this other thing protecting me, but it made me not fully human. And so the way we run it, self-control, then focus, then respect, then self-discipline, then self-confidence. So self-control, focus, respect when you show that you care, doing things and treating things with positive energy. So I want this kid to treat grandma with positive energy. So let me give him fear. That's not going to help model for him what positive energy looks like. Yep. So I've got to let my kids be able to speak their truth, whatever their truth is, even if it's based on wrong information. I need them to verbalize it, express it, get it out, because that is the reality. Now I can do something with it. We call it living in the land of is versus living in the land of should. Should is your rules. Should is your story. Is the game. Is the reality. Here is what's happening. So I got to have my kids express that. I got to have them vocalize that. Once they've done that, now I can work with it. I can guide them somewhere different. I can lead them somewhere different. So we've got to create that ability for them to speak up. And you don't have to agree with what they say. You don't even have to like what they say. But you want it to come out because you can deal with it. You'd be like, excuse me, hold on a second. So you just said this. Do you also realize ... Do you also understand ... I can add more context to help them understand. I appreciate where you are and what you're feeling. And let's get you warm, big, and happy first. Let's figure that out. So my daughter's upset. She's crying because she had to give up the phone last night because it was time to get ready for bed and she wants more YouTube. Babe, it's bedtime. Now we can make this painful and we can both be yelling and it can be really unpleasant. Notice I say that I shake my head like I don't want to do that. Or we can get ready for bed and we can do some story time. We can do some snuggling. Which one sounds like more fun? And she likes to connect. I like to connect. So guess what? We went upstairs and we brushed our teeth and we got in pajamas and we got in bed and we snuggled and we read books and we did stories and everything was fine. But I could make that a battle. And to be, in full disclosure, occasionally, yeah, I'm not my most resourceful because I'm tired. It's been a long day and I've dealt with a bunch of people and I've got my own stuff. And sometimes I do yell at her because that's just where I'm at.
Yeah.
And then my wife is there and she can interrupt sometimes. Sometimes I'll realize, wait, this isn't who I am. I'm just fatigued. My body is weary. I can apologize. And see, when I'm able to apologize to my daughter when I overstep myself, does that make it harder for her or easier for her to do the same thing? Because I modeled it. And when I apologize, it helps her to realize, oh, wait a minute, somebody could apologize to me. They could mess up and I did nothing wrong, but they gave me pain, but that was their thing, not my thing. And so that idea of starting to create that emotional safety that, you know what, babe, whatever you have to say, I want to hear it. My stepson right now is dealing with some stuff. And, for mom and I, we're both like, dude, whatever you have to say, even if you're mad at us, that's okay. You're allowed to be mad at us. You're allowed to have your feelings. You're allowed to have your thoughts. You're your own person. We want to hear that stuff. Even if you don't think we're going to like it, we're still going to love you for telling us the truth.
Yep.
And so we have to, he's 9, but he's kind of already starting some teenage stuff. So we have to remind him and reinforce that. And then we have to act congruent. We actually have to say that stuff and mean it when he is vulnerable with us and when he's upset and when he's crying about situations that we can't control. But it's like, dude, first step, acknowledge what you're feeling. You're allowed to feel that. And we still love you. We still think the sun blows out your butt sometimes because sometimes your butt stinks and you need to wash it. Right. And we do that, just kind of de-escalate and take the pressure down, make it funny. But dude, we got you. Whatever you're going through, whatever you're thinking, whatever you're feeling, we always want to hear it. It will not scare us. And so that creates that room for him now to be able to verbalize. And when you start to say stuff out, you get it out of your head. Now you can deal with it. Write it down. Now it's externalized. Instead of sitting inside your head and your heart and bouncing around and being confused, just get it out. Once it's out, cool. Now let's deal with this. How can we approach this? What other things could we do? And we can help him to deconstruct a situation, to create a plan to go forward. He's driving it. He's creating it. We're just giving him guidelines to bounce into and things to consider to make his life easier. Still his consequences, his choice. He's got to pull the trigger. So we as parents, and this is where I see a lot of parents struggling, because they just cut things off because it's too big or they're too scary. I've had to have the talk with a few of my young ladies in the school because the parents are super uncomfortable. They're super nervous. That's not a bad thing. It's just sexuality in America is a very complex topic, and consent is a very big topic. I taught sexual violence prevention in the colleges. So there's certain things I'm okay talking about. And there's sense, because I don't live with the kids, I can see them more as a human being and not, still seeing them in diapers type of stuff. I remember we were at a family get together and I said something about my daughter dating. And my brother was like, "That's your daughter you're talking about. She's only 2. I'm like, dude, she's going to be a sexual being at some point in her life. And me pretending that she's not is ignorance on my part. I'm not pushing her towards it, but I'm also not going to ignore when she starts to notice things about the other genders, whether she likes girls or she likes boys or she likes whatever. She is where she is. She is who she is. It's cool. But it just like blew his mind that I was already like thinking about this stuff. And it's like, but that's part of the deal. It's going to happen. So let's have tools ahead of time, not wait and then be surprised. And then, oh, life just got super complex because we never prepared her.
Yeah.
So does that help answer your question about empowering your kids and creating the emotional safety?
It's awesome. We are just on time. Could I ask you another question? Do you have time for that? So it's really about, because I hear from that place where you're coming, to connect and allow the space to come out and let the children express and really see the value of that. And you also shared like sometimes you're overwhelmed and kind of too stressed up, and I can really connect to that. It happens to me more than not, almost. No, but really it happens regularly. And so I think that like a lot of people kind of know, okay, we can meet in this place. Like it's very beautiful to really allow the kids to speak up as you describe it, but kind of a little bit more. So do you have any strategies or tips how we as parents can kind of connect to ourselves to be able to give our children the right space and this actually safe space to say that they are okay? What's the first step?
Yeah. So especially because you deal with dadpreneurs, one of the things we have to understand is inside of us we have a masculine and we have a feminine, all of us, right? And so that masculine, that feminine, it has certain patterns and certain needs and desires. And so any human being, man or woman, who is running in their masculine, if they were outside of the home in their masculine, or they're in work mode inside the home, they need transition time to switch from work mode to home mode. Because if you were outside of the house and you've been working for 5-10 hours and you come home and the first thing that happens when you open the door is your wife jumps on you with a list of demands and your kids jump on you with a list of demands, you're going to explode. And it's painful for them and it's painful for you because you're just not ready to receive that. And it's not because you don't love them. It's because you're still like this in tunnel vision mode at work and all the things are running past your head and you're deleting this and focusing on that. And I got to get this done tomorrow. So you've got these other things running in the back of your head. You're not home. So one of the most important things to do, this is for men or women, but if you're in your masculine, when you come home, before you can be in home mode, you need transition time, 10, 15, 20 minutes, sometimes half an hour to decompress. Easiest way to do that I found is greet your wife or significant other. You greet them and say, babe, I love you. And I'm so glad to be home. Give them a kiss, give them a hug, some sort of connection. Go find the kids and then say, kids, daddy's home or mommy's home, whoever, just, hey, I'm home and I'd love to connect in just a few minutes. Let me switch. And you tell them, let me switch. And then you leave. You go, usually what I would do is I would go take a shower, 5-10 minutes and literally wash the day away. And it gives me a few minutes to just be home, breathe, connect to myself, center myself, dry myself off, put my evening clothes on, whether it's pajamas or whatever, but just get dressed and comfortable. I'm literally not in anything that I wore for the day. And then I come out and I find everybody. I'm like, daddy's home. And now I'm 100% approachable and everything's good. And so, my wife, Autumn, she realizes that sometimes when she's hitting me with stuff, she's like, wait, you're glassing. Go get a shower and then we'll talk. Because she realizes she needs to process her day. The bucket is full. She's got to just spew it out, get it out of her system. But I'm not ready to fully receive. Sometimes she'll read that and go. And sometimes she won't because she's just in a place she has to vent. And I just got to like, babe, I love you. Go. Just tell me what you got. And I have to kind of halfway switch and go, okay, I'm in listening mode. Give me everything you got. Let's go. I can take the hit. Hey, babe, I understand. Give me a few minutes to process. Let me go get a shower. She's like, right, go do that. And so that communication, asking for what you need from your partner, from your children, it's okay. But that is one of the most important things, is recognizing, where are you? It's okay. I just did a video yesterday. It's okay to take a time out. It's okay to say, tag, I can't handle this right now. I'll be back in 10 minutes. Love you. Bye. Walk out the door. Go do what you need to get centered. Come back. It's okay. The people who love you, they want to give you what you need, but you got to ask. They're not mind readers. They don't just spontaneously magically know. So that's one of the most important things. And that's true whether it's, a single mom who's in her masculine, but then comes home. And if she's still in her masculine, just pain. On the kids, then they're in bed. Now she's beating herself up because, well, but I love them. And I can't believe they would talk to me like that. And who do they think that? It's like, dude, breathe.
Mm-hmm.
So having that transition time, it's super important. And this is not a men thing. This is just the way masculine energy works, the way testosterone affects the brain, affects us hormonally. It just operates different. So if that's the one thing I could leave for people, that would be like the most important thing.
Right on. Yeah, thank you so much. That was beautiful. I can resonate with that so much, just recognizing what is.
Bless you. Even being able to label, babe, I'm still in work mode. I'm still in, just being able to label that, not that it's an excuse, but it's just a recognition of where you're at, because then your partners can adapt with you. They can flow with you and go, oh, okay. What do you need from me to be able to get centered?
Yeah. So what is the best way for people to connect to you, get more of you, to maybe get information, or if anyone is interested to get your coaching, what is the best way to connect and learn?
The best way to connect with me is to write your complaints on a $50 bill and send them to me. That's the best. Now the best places to find me, number one, is on Facebook, either at facebook.com/Jeremy Roadruck or jeremyr.thekungfuguy. jeremyr.thekungfuguy is my personal account. Jeremy Roadruck is my professional account. I'm also on Instagram at KungFuGuyJeremy. I'm also on YouTube.com/KungFuGuyJeremy. Those are about the three best places: is Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. And I just had a podcast go live yesterday, about 25 and a half hours ago. So go to iTunes and check me out there.
And that's a launch. Like, it's not a podcast episode. It's the actual launch of your podcast.
I restarted. I did one about a year and a half ago, which is just me talking into a microphone. I'll get out. It was no fun. But this new one is much, much better. And we're focusing on tools, tips, strategies, stories, help parents to empower their kids to speak up and own their voice, and then create their own emotional safety. And for the parents, a lot of times they don't know how to do that. So then it's like, how do you give that to your kids if you don't have it, right? So for the parents, it's kind of help you a little bit too, and maybe help your relationship with your parents as well. So there's me, my wife comes in on some of these. We also have experts that we're bringing in, other parenting experts to interview. How are they doing the things they're doing? And the goal of the podcast is about 20 to 35 minutes. So it's a quick hit. Get something in once a week on Tuesdays. So those are the places.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
And then my main website, we'll be editing, but it's theparentingprogram.com. That's coaching and more information. Theparentingprogram.com. Although I should have gone that way. Theparentingprogram.com. There.
Awesome. Cool. Thank you so much, Jeremy. Beautiful to have you on. Thank you for
absolutely.
All
I like the bow.
It was a pleasure to have you here. Really, thank you for your insight and wisdom and all. Really, like we shared a post. I think we were talking about that in the week, like the decade or the decades that you've been training and practicing to be where you are, so that you're able to communicate a clear message in a very short period of time that can have a big impact in someone's life forever. So I'm really grateful. After this call, my parenting will be better, and my relationship with my wife and my ability to communicate and support dads is better. So I'm super grateful, and hopefully it helps a lot of people out there. So to dadpreneurs and everyone else listening and watching, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll be back with Dadpreneur Revolution podcast very soon again. So thank you.
Bye.